together.
Vince, thank you. We have learned Brown Deer police had numerous interactions with Radcliffe Houghton, but he was never actually arrested for domestic violence.
Wisconsin does have a mandatory arrest law when it comes to domestic violence. However, as our Tammy Hughes found out, it's not always a clear-cut directive.
We fought for mandatory arrests, and we believe it's important because it establishes immediate safety for clients.
Carmen Petrie has been advocating for victims of domestic violence for decades. She was part of the fight back in 1988 when Wisconsin passed a law requiring an arrest in cases of domestic violence. Before
Mandatory arrests, law enforcement had different responses at different times. There was no uniformity, and what mandatory arrest did is it sort of brought everything to the same level.
Petrie says sometimes because a couple was married, like the Houghtons, officers would be hesitant to intervene, calling it a private matter. Petrie says an arrest should also not depend on whether or not the victim is cooperating, because she says victims will often deny the abuse out of fear.
We're going to hold you accountable. It has nothing to do, it's not because of her that you're being arrested. The issue is now between the state of Wisconsin and you.
In order to make an arrest, the law says the officer should have reasonable grounds to believe the person is committing or has committed domestic abuse. It also points out that the officer does not need consent of the victim and that an arrest can be made even in the absence of injury.
Doing a police officer's job is not easy.
In the Houghton case, Petrie is discouraged more doors weren't open to get Zena Houghton the help she needed. But she also says that responsibility lies with the whole community and not just police.
Whoever you are in that circle, we need to be doing better to prevent this from happening in the future.
And I also talked to a spokesperson for the Milwaukee County District Attorney's Office. He said it is up to each police department to develop its own protocol and how they enforce this law. But when it comes to probable cause with any kind of arrest, he said that can always be subjective. Reporting live in the newsroom, I'm Tammy Hughes, Fox 6 News.
Tammy, this is a separate story altogether, but I've known Carmen Petrie for years, admire the work that she does. I have to wonder, is she hoping that victims who are in these relationships come forward from this? Is she hoping that something good can come out of this awful event?
Oh, absolutely. She said this should force all of us. She was talking about that circle, not just police, organizations like her, neighbors, friends, everybody, that everybody in that circle uses this story and this awful tragedy as a time to reflect and look at what more they could be doing.
Let's hope on that. Tammy Hughes in the newsroom, thank you.
Tonight, a time to reflect. There will be a candlelight vigil to remember the victims of the mass shooting. It is being held at the Medallion on the main lawn of Carroll University in Waukesha. The event will include